Justice Ginsburg's death places the Supreme Court front and center into the presidential race just 6 weeks before Election Day. Now, with voting already underway in some states, it could reshape the showdown between President Donald Trump and Democratic nominee Joe Biden. Well, Trump has said he will nominate a successor for Ginsburg, despite the Republican Senate refusing to consider Barack Obama's court pick 4 years ago.
Voters should pick the president, and the president should pick the justice for the Senate to consider. This was the position of the Republican Senate took in 2016 when there were almost 10 months to go before the election. That's the position the United States Senate must take today.
We will uphold equal justice under the law for citizens of every race, color, religion, and creed. I will be putting forth a nominee next week. It will be a woman.
Well, joining us now for all of this is Derek Wallbank, who has covered Washington in the past. Derek, what have we learned since Friday about how likely it is that President Trump's Supreme Court pick will get confirmed, and why is it such a contentious issue?
Well, Francine, it looks like Mitch McConnell and Senate Republicans are going to move forward with a replacement, whoever Donald Trump nominates to replace Ruth Bader Ginsburg. It looks, I would imagine it to come off of some names who are currently in circulation. Donald Trump has done a very clear job of telegraphing the sorts of jurists he might pick, even including releasing names of people to say, here's my short list. So I don't think you'll see any sort of surprises in terms of who he's likely to pick. Now, it is likely to be somebody whose positions on most major issues are probably 180 degrees of what Ruth Bader Ginsburg would have done. You're going to talk about a 5-4 court split on some major issues becoming a 6-3 Republican majority, of 5 of whom you would tab as probably very, very conservative. And so there is the potential to lock in a court for a generation that is very sympathetic to the Republican point of view on a lot of critical issues. And naturally, this has Democrats furious, especially because Merrick Garland, Barack Obama's nominee to replace the late Antonin Scalia, wasn't considered, wasn't given a hearing or anything like that in Obama's final year. Now, whatever your opinions on the differentiations between how those two situations are treated, the simple fact of the matter is that Republicans, if they feel like they have the votes, are going to go put this person on the Supreme Court.
What would you be watching for under a 6-3 Republican-nominated high court?
Well, I think that a lot of people are going to talk about social issues straight off. They're going to talk about Roe v. Wade, which is the decision that sort of underpins abortion rights in the United States. But one of the things I'm watching is on regulations, federal regulations, specifically the scope of regulations. Republicans have been trying for a long time, people who have been searching for conservative jurists have been trying to narrow the scope of federal regulation when it's not explicitly stated in text. This is something you're going to hear on the news a lot as the Chevron deference. It's a complicated situation, but basically it means the scope of federal rulemaking ability related to old statutes. So you're looking at somebody who could really narrow that, who could really narrow the scope of federal regulation. That shows up in a lot of ways. That shows up in environmental regulation. That shows up in the scope of regulations otherwise, such as Obamacare, such as health care, such as, anything like that. The scope of what Congress is able to do. Now, I would expect, though, Democrats will not take all of this lying down. There is a real chance that they could win the presidency. If anything, Joe Biden's favored as of right now. There's also a real chance they could pick up the Senate. That's more of a coin flip right at this moment. But if Democrats win the Senate, if Democrats take the White House, they're talking about, look, if you're not going to consider our court picks fairly and they feel like they've lost 2 seats, expect some real movement from Democrats in terms of considering expanding the size of the Supreme Court, maybe moving forward on statehood for the District of Columbia or for Puerto Rico or some other major measures. I don't expect Democrats to sit down on this. And the last thing I'd say, Francine, is this. You've seen $100 million pour into Democratic coffers in the days since Ruth Bader Ginsburg passed away. There is a real urgency on the Democratic side to do things. And it's just as the Supreme Court motivated conservatives to support Trump, even if they didn't really like him as their number one option in 2016. In 2020, you're seeing progressives like AOC go out and put out videos saying, look, this is existential. We need Joe Biden right now. So if anything, this has energized Democrats who might have been skeptical about Biden, who are now sitting there saying, look, choice couldn't be clearer, could it?